Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Onkai. I'm a priest in training here. I'm going to continue the discussion of Menzan, Zuiho, Osho's The Self-Receiving Employing Samadhi, also translated as the self enjoying what is received. The first part I'm going to talk about is as follows. Quote, the one mind which manifests either as unen, thought, or munen, no thought, no good, no evil, must be something which is beyond these conditions. It must be the light which illuminates everywhere and is never clouded. As soon as you become clearly aware of the light, you will be released from the limitation of delusory thoughts, and the Buddha's wisdom will be realized. This is called nehanmyo shin, the marvelous mind in Nirvana. This is nothing other than Jijuyu-zanmai. Practice enlightenment beyond unen and munen can be compared to the function of a mirror. A mirror reflects both beautiful and ugly things without distinguishing them. This is the natural function of a mirror, but the reflection, which may be beautiful or ugly, is not the mirror itself. The reflection is just a shadow of what is in front of the mirror. End of quote. Okay, this is beginning the discussion of relative and absolute. Unen, thought, is relative, and munen, no thought, no good, no evil, is the absolute. I will be discussing the relative and absolute more later. For now, let's just say that practice enlightenment includes both the relative and the absolute. Nenge's reading about Buddha was about Buddha nature always being present, that clouds and storms sometimes don't cover the sun or moon of enlightenment, and emotions drive those storms. Emotions, desire, aversion, and dull ignorance. But we know that the sun and moon are always there. Jundo reminded me, and I think this part discusses the idea that clouds and storms themselves have the light of Buddha nature. There is light in the clouds. So the relative and is the absolute, and the absolute is the relative. When we see that there is Buddha nature in the clouds and storms, which is often hard to see because they're tumultuous and they can be ugly, we also see that we can help by seeing the light of the storms. We also see that we can help them calm down by living gently and making a better world. Practice enlightenment. In practice enlightenment, we see that the imperfections in the world and in ourselves are part of a greater wholeness, that the wholeness is actually beautiful. When I started just sitting, I saw a flaw in myself I didn't know I had. But when I saw that flaw, I was able to address it, and I released a lot of potential that I wouldn't have had otherwise. Sometimes there are ugly and cruel things in the world, such as war, famine, and injustice. And we are right to want to fix those things, to do something about them, to make the world a better place. But at the same time, we can see that the entire wholeness, the world, even including those things, is beautiful. The next part I'm going to discuss is, quote, if you think that munen, no thought, is your real mind and become attached to the conditions of no thought, where neither good nor evil arises, it is the same as thinking that where no reflection exists is the mirror itself, and thus becoming attached to the backside of the mirror. If the mirror reflects nothing, it is the same as if it were a piece of stone or tile. The function of the light of the mirror is lost. This analogy admonishes you not to get caught up in dullness or muki, no good, no evil, no thought. As you know, neither the reflection nor the backside of the mirror is the essential function of the mirror, which, like that of the light, illuminates itself clearly. You must realize that the Buddha's wisdom, like a great and perfect mirror, is far beyond the dichotomy of thought and no thought. For example, when you sit zazen, if your mind does not arise and function, and if you do not see anything, hear anything, or feel any pain or itchiness, you can just stagnate in emptiness. On the contrary, if you see or hear something outside and think of it or feel just and become attached to pain or itchiness, you just stagnate in the distraction caused by the dichotomy of subject and object. Both conditions are limited by delusory thoughts. Therefore, the third patriarch said, neither follow after objects nor dwell in emptiness. End of quote. It's a common lament by people taking up the practice that I can't stop my thoughts or I can't empty my mind. This passage makes it clear that stopping the thoughts and emptying the mind is not the point. The point is to allow the thoughts and emotions to arise and allow them to pass away, not getting attached to some or pushing others away, but allowing them to rise and fall on their own. A mirror must reflect. Not thinking or and not feeling is not reflecting. Allowing allowing strong feelings to arise is not to be thrown around by them. When I read this section, I thought it was discussing spiritual bypassing. Jundo didn't think the connection was clear, and he sent me an article, What is Spiritual Bypassing by Kendra Cherry, on the site Very Well Mind, updated December 6, 2020. Spiritual bypassing is a term that was coined in the 1970s, and it means to misuse spirituality to avoid complex emotional issues. Some signs of spiritual bypassing is not feeling anger or believing that problems will be solved through positive thinking, or believing that all trauma are good learning experiences. and not seeing things as they are in order to remain in spiritual bliss. Menzan is saying not to do these things. Menzan is saying to see thoughts and emotions as they arise. The relative and absolute are two different lenses. In the relative, we begin in the relative, and we see in the relative good or evil, me or you, up or down, winning or losing. For example, I can get lost in my ambition to become a successful fiction writer. When we sit, we see the absolute as well. That in a very real way, there is no good or evil, no up or down, no me or you, no winning or losing. The Heart Sutra says all is emptiness, including sense experiences and life and death. So in Shikantaza, I can drop my ambitions, and I can see that I'm fine as I am. Nothing needs to be added or taken away. However, we have another chant that says, realizing the absolute is not yet enlightenment. So when I get up from my cushion, there's house cleaning that needs to be done, and I want to be a contributing member of society. We are embodied beings, and we respond to things. Practice enlightenment includes those responses. Without feeling, we can't be compassionate to other people. Escaping feelings, such as the sting of rejection, is not wise or compassionate. It's a spiritual bypass. Like the third patriarch said, neither follow after objects nor dwell in emptiness. And that's about all I have for that section. Does anybody have any questions or comments?